Hello humans, Master Dragonflight here, bringing you the low quality content you deserve, and today I will be finally going over the deck I just did on the quick combo, but this time the actual deck profile and some replays, and this demonstration of the Lunalight deck I've been testing. Now, for starters, I will say, because this is a tier 0 format, don't play this deck. More importantly, I would I could theoretically make a valid argument. Don't play Yugioh right now. It's pretty miserable. No matter how skillful the tier mirror is, it really does just boil down to like Floodgates who has it. That's what the entire game is right now. It's really, really intolerable. But that being said, the beauty about tier 0 formats is they go away. They are very unsustainable card design, and they literally can't sell you more cards when they don't give you a reason, so this won't last forever, but until it passes, it's going to be miserable. But that being said, this channel is about, like, giving you ideas, pet decks, blah, 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 whatever. You've heard this spiel before. Now, I really want to give a demonstration a lot better in my last video about how resistant this deck is to Bystials, because I was saying it, but I wasn't really giving you a proper demonstration of why. So I decided I'm just going to draw a test hand, and I will show this in action. Now, because we already have the Beyond the Pendulum play, depending on how you want to play against your opponent is how you'll activate the Tenki and whatnot, but let's just say we don't. We will dump Darkworm. Now, right now, our opponent can't Bystial us regardless, because we control no monsters. But when we summon the Darkworm, this is when it starts, and we will at gate 0. Now, another thing to keep in mind is, we'll go ahead and normal summon it now, Kaleido Chick. We want to use this card as much as we possibly can. So right now, our opponent can Bystial us, but they're going to hit a Yellow Marten that really can't do anything. So yeah, they could attack this, and sometimes they're well within reason to do so, but in reality, it does not get them much of anything, because we are going to go ahead and link into Beyond the Pendulum, and Beyond the Pendulum, we'll go ahead and set Tiger as a scale. And if our opponent Bystialed the Yellow Marten, or even the Kaleido Chick right now, there's not really much winning for them for doing so, because we will go ahead and Pendulum summon the Darkworm, and let's say they hit the Chick, which is, honestly, this moment right here is the best part to Bystial. It doesn't really get them that far, because we have a bunch of rank 4 access. So this isn't ideal, and if they don't, they want to try to save it for later. Let's just demonstrate how futile this is. So right now, our opponent hasn't Bystialed us yet. If they try to hit this Kaleido Chick right now, which is the absolute most ideal time, we just get to bounce Marten with this, make a rank 4. It basically what I just demonstrated. But if not, they want to try to save it for something ideal. We will go ahead, revive Kaleido Chick, dump another Yellow Marten, which means we now have 2 Yellow Martens, which means our opponent has to save it for when activating. They can no longer just blind do it. And now we will overlay into Force Tricks, detach the Darkworm, or whichever, and we will add Raider's Wing, add it to our hand, summon it out of hand with its own effect, and then link these 2 into Wise Tricks. Now, I've been developing this deck list a lot more, and because of that, there have been a lot of changes. Like, for one, I'm no longer playing the rank up, and cut half the birds, but the other half I kept in were like Zephyros the Elite and Raider's Wing, which are like the best 2. But right now, this is at our moment. This is the final moment our opponent can Bystial us. If they didn't do it for the Kaleido Chick, they already missed out on some major disruption that still doesn't really end your turn. It just kind of strong. The keyword is kind of strong. But every other moment, it has been meaningless to Bystial us, and now this is the last moment to, and no matter what they Bystial, it's already too late, because Let's say they try to save it, it's over. 2 Mat Apo. Now, we just negate any Bestial they try to go for. Next, we will bounce the Yellow Marten, summon it, then summon Tiger, summon Chick again, and then we just get to full combo. Because right here, I'll tell you right now, I cut the rank up because I've noticed I can just hard make Infinity so often in this deck list. And I decided to hard make Infinity rather than using the rank up because, one, that's a few less bricks to play, and more importantly, Diamond is just like, it's cool, but it doesn't really matter, and it also isn't good going second at all. But the truth is, going second isn't really a thing this format. Like, if you're not exactly tier, or, well, no, it's just tier, there is no going second. That's not a possibility. The only possibility you get is just by hard drawing like a shifter. Like I said, this format's really bad, but it's hard to explain, but this is a really, really bad format. I can just tell you that much, but I'm trying to give you the ability to go first, and this setup allows you to go first, and the Bestials, even though you're playing a deck that, in theory, should just hard lose to Bestials, you're not, because you're setting up so much, despite the fact that, like, your opponent can Bestial at any time, but in that ideal moment, you're still making a bunch of rank 4s and an Apollosa. It just doesn't really get them that far, and that's why I wanted to make this deck list like it is. To demonstrate the fact that you can play around a lot of Bestial and Crow-based stuff just for basic means, and I think that's what's really cool about this Lunalight list specifically, is how noticeably resistant it is to those Bestials, to the Crows, and all the Ghost Zergers and whatever. But now that I've got this demonstration out of the way, let's get into the deck list. Alright, for the deck list, I will say, before we get into anything, this deck struggles to go second, but that is not exclusive to anything. That's just how the game is right now. It's kind of sad. It's one of the many, many bad things that comes with Tier 0 formats, is you can't objectively, like, build a deck list properly, because there's no point and there's no methodology of which to test right or wrong deck building, outside of just building the exact best deck, which is bad. That's horrible, horrible game design. But that being said, it has a lot of resistance to multiple things. You'll see it in the replays. It's like super resistant to a lot of stuff, but again, Tier 0 format, none of your deck building actually matters. So let's get into it. 3 Kaleido Chick, 2 Marten, 1 Emerald Bird, 1 Tiger, and 1 White Rabbit. So what's interesting is you can replace White Rabbit for Black Sheep. They do the same thing where they basically can get back Tiger if you have to spend it by popping it, or it gets taken to the graveyard or whatever. Emerald Bird can recycle it if it gets banished by whatever. There's just a lot of things you can do with it. There's a lot of ways to recycle it, so that's pretty interesting. But White Rabbit, while it is a normal summon, which makes it slower than Black Sheep, has the benefit of being much more independently good than Black Sheep is, because Black Sheep can only really get you so far. But in the case of White Rabbit, not only can it like make a lot of XCs on its own, but it's just good for bouncing back row. So you could play either. I chose White Rabbit. You could play Black Sheep. It's the same thing most part. Then for the birds, we got Zephyros the Elite and Raider's Wing, best 2, of course. Then we got Supreme King and the Donut, and then the Rockets and Absorouter. So you could give all these dumps extra effects, and then the Dark Warriors for extra consistency boosters. Dark Refer is kind of cool because if you don't need to go for Beyond the Pendulum, Dark Worm gives you a level 7 Dark, so you can just get like 2 special summons and a rank 4 basically before you have a normal summon, which is really cool. Then for the spells, it's consistency boosters and extenders. 3 Tinky, 3 Goods, 3 Perfume, 3 Quick Launch, deleted 1, 3 Ravine, 1 Shrine, 1 Foolish, 1 Rhoda, and then the Serenade Dance, which no matter how many years go by, this card is still in your deck list because it could use a consistency boost, and this trap is just pretty good, and Yellow Martin needs an actual target of some kind, so yeah. And then Forbidden Droplet, it's a piss poor attempt of pretending you can go second. I'll say that. Like I said, it's really unfortunate that you can't properly decide if you have enough for going first or second when there's such a power curve to the game right now, where it's basically just this exact one deck. But I'm not. Why would I make repeating deck profiles of the same deck in a tier 0 format? This channel has, like, I want to say entertainment value. It's more like yell at the funny stuttering man for not playing these cards in his deck list. But really, what it is because you can't judge properly anything you're doing right and wrong. It can make some really wonky deck lists, which I don't like. I really want it to not be a tier 0 format so I can properly try some things, but we're just not in that situation right now. And tier 0 formats, I can save it for another day. They create a lot more problems than people realize. They are always objectively bad, and when they create a skillful format, that is a happy accident of what tier 0 formats do, because in itself, they're not intentionally supposed to happen, which means they are a mistake, and that mistake will bleed into many other things. That's all I'll say about it, but for the side deck, it exists. For the extra deck, I will say I want to change nothing and so many things at the same time. So, beyond the Pendulum, Y-Strix, Apollosa, and then, like, multiple of these rank 4s get to stick. But the Infinity Package, it's 3 cards in your extra deck, and that is so much. That is ridiculously way too much, I feel. But at the same time, outside of Diamond, which only works going first, Infinity can work going second, and it works going first, and it's a board clear, and an Omni that any random force can make. There's just so many good things going for it, outside of the fact that it's 3 extra deck spots. And this is where it gets kind of tricky, because, man, I would love if this was just, like, 2 slots, but it's not. And that's what makes this so tricky. But I don't know if I even could cut it yet, because I'll say this, Boarload Savage is very cuttable, but, like, what do I cut it for? Because there's, like, 3 cards in here I want to add, so cutting 1 doesn't really do much of anything. So it's one of those tricky things where this deck could really benefit from an 18-card extra deck, but if I cut these 3, sure, I get those 3 slots at the cost of removing probably the most powerful package in my extra deck, truthfully. These cards being both good first and second is something we don't get that often in Yu-Gi-Oh! And that's kind of tricky. That is actually really tricky. So that's what I will say about this extra deck. There's a lot of things you can change. The only things that I would say should be in here are these cards, like right here, and then like maybe this, like these cards could use some flexibility. Tornado Dragon, I would probably keep it regardless. So it's like these 6 cards, what are you supposed to do? It's hard to tell, but we will see. But yep, that's it for the deck list, deck profile, whatever. Yeah, thank you all for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. My patience with this game right now is so razor thin. Even while making this deck list almost completely immune to any 1 Bestial and super resistant to like 2 or whatever, like ultimately it is just an experiment. It can't get you that far, and again, I don't want to sound mopey and whatnot, but like that sucks. The thing is, I enjoy experimenting with this game, but that has to be possible for me to enjoy it. And that's one thing I personally don't like about Tier 0 formats. Even if you just don't care that Tier 0 formats warp card design very negatively, and you enjoy that they do frequently bring skillful formats, like, so much of the player base feels alienated, and, like, pro players are cool or whatnot, but they are the tiniest minority of the entire player base. The good players make up such a small portion of the player base. It's good that they actually have their skill represented, but it's probably not a great idea to have that by ruining the experience for 99.99% of players, but it is what it is. But yep, that's about it. Thank you all for watching, and remember, Master Dinner Flags will take your soul.